Kabinam Nogaha, Abu Morgaha, yeah. Take off the hood. Neptune, Neptune, Neptune. Welcome. Thank you to my returning viewers. Thank you. Shimoge here. Shimoge here. Shimoge K Rama Hambu Mogi Onishikala Kanu Biaraza. Abiyar Mazaha. Abu Mogaha. Kara, I am the country. I am the country. Abu the country. Abu Mezekewu. Abu Mewama. Anime Wama. Abu Mewama. Abu Monisha Madioha. Abu Mobiacha, Abu Mobiacha, Abu Mobiacha, Engwere Miaquano, Abu Mobiacha, Engwere Miaquano, Abu Mobiacha, Engwere Miaquano, Abu Mendoji, Abu Mendoji, Abu Mendoji, Dodgy, Dodgy, Dada. Welcome. Now let me give a more full introduction for my new coming viewers, although it will be quick. Given name Chimoge. Metaphysically correct name Chimoge K. Ram. Full name of the way of my being. Chimoge K. Ram. Ahambu Moge Onishi Kalakana. Government name Chimoge Chijuke Ibe. Forward name Moge. Alternate white structured name, which is a longer version of the government name. Shimoge Shijuge Ibang Mwoko. The addition is Mwoko. Shout out to my great great grandfather Mwoko. Patrilineal Cabernet Mwoko. 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 Abu Mamadioha. Abu Mefefe. Abu Mefefe. Abu Mefefe. Birthplace, Ramin Kelu. They call the spot Southeast Washington, D.C. Let's get back to nature. Call it the natural name. Ha 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 ha. Abu Mamadio ha 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 ha. Abu Neme Bem ha 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 ha. Abu Munye Bem ha 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 ha. My matrilineal village is at Ben Mohafia. Reference point village for my patrilineage. The first village of Earth. Ajurata, West Africa. Wake up, wake up. North of the sea, south of the Sahara, west of the Central. Ha 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 ha. Abu Mamadio ha 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 ha. Yes. Ha 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 ha. Ane Mefefe, ha 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 ha. Abu Mefefe, ha 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 ha. Abu Mefefe, ha 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 ha. Is also Tita, ha 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 ha. Efefe Bu is also, ha 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 ha. Yes. The animals we call birds, the fly. And I want to make clear, there are animals that we don't call birds that can also be called fly. For example, the animals we typically call house flies, efefugo, the fly of the eagle. All of those can also be called ezosa, eze, leader, also pace, the leaders of pace, the leaders of fast. Think about it. Aren't they very fast? Don't they take the lead? Anyway, let me give two facts about myself. Also, I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where I live. And this is the Oshimiri of this world. Two facts about me. One, I like to see the sunrise. Two, I do not like dogs. Let's walk. Abu Mezasa, Abu Mezasa, Abu Mezasa, Abu Mezasa, Abu Mezasa, Abu Mezasa. Abu Mezasa, Abu Mezasa, Abu Mezasa, Abu Mezasa. Utah, Utah. Abu Utah, Abu Utah, Abu Utah, Abu Paru Utah, Abu 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 Utah. Testing, 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 boom, testing, boom, testing, testing, I am the blessing. Every view is a blessing, Anyway, yes, thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment as well. Every comment is a blessing. I read comments at my discretion. Let's get right into it. 4:34. I need to make a note of that for later. Anyway, there's something I need to check. Anyway, technical, a technical question. I have a technological question. Basically, I'm just wondering about my notifications. Anyway, Kanye. Currently, I think his legal name is Ye. Although I will say, Let me go into it a bit. You see, it's possible for someone to change their saved name, which is what people usually refer to as one's name, really one's first name. Should I go for a walk? What do the ancestors say? They say I don't need to walk. Let me just shift a bit. You see, your saved name is the name that you associate with yourself most deeply. Okay, it saves you from being nameless. For most people, that is their first name, and it's the first name they were given as a child, as an infant. Now, there are some exceptions. For example, some people go by a quote unquote nickname so much that becomes their saved name. For example, if someone's legal name is John Smith, but their family has called them Jack since they were a child, and yes, those are two names that I don't think should be given to people, but I'm just using them because they're common. Um, if they gone by Jack since they were a child and they respond to Jack more than John, Jack in that case is their saved name, and that's an example. But there are complications to these things because one, people can change their name, but it's more accurate to say people can have their name changed because you cannot name yourself. It's not possible. That's just a lie, and I'll leave it at that. Another exception to what I'm talking about is where people might. Let me back up a bit. Let me say this is a complication. A lot of times people have been called something for a long time and try and answer it, but really when they're being honest, that's not their name. So at that time it can be complicated to see what the person's name is. That's a very bad situation. Why am I talking about this? The person I'm talking about today has kind of created that situation, but that's emblematic of a trend I'm talking about with erratic behavior. You see, I wouldn't really say I've changed my name, because Shimoge is my given name. That's the name I was given as a child, and I've never said my name is not Shimoge, and anyone can call me that. Now, I wish to have my name changed, but that does not mean I've actually changed it. That's like saying I wish to grow taller. That doesn't mean I'm taller. And I'll just leave it at that. And caveat, people should stop over obsessing with height in the world today. I just have to add that. They're doing too much. Um, yeah, anyway, what am I getting at here? Someone who's attempting to change their own name, um, there are caveats to this. But someone who's either, I think, attempting to change their own given name, I just have to go there. I want to be respectful. There's a long history of black people, because our names are obviously not fit for our language and our bloodline. There's a long history of black people, quote unquote, changing our own names. I'm sympathetic to that up to a point, and I'll just leave it at that. But at the same time, generally speaking, if you look at all possible scenarios in this world, someone attempting to change their own name, and changing is different than adding on to their name. Okay, say you say, in addition to this, I also want people to call me this, and or I think this is the full metaphysical correct way to refer to me. Okay, I've already talked a lot about how middle names and last names are not your name. You should know what I mean. So if someone says that's not really my name, let's say I'm Jack Nke Ubu, whatever. That's not changing his name. He's actually just beginning a discourse. And in that case, I would say, this hypothetical case, rightly, about what he should be called in full. Because you shouldn't just be called literally your saved name. But if you're attempting to change your own name, like no trace of what the name you were given is, consistently, generally speaking, in most scenarios in this world, and I want to emphasize, this world, most of this world, as in outside of this planet, is still just. And most of the possible scenarios in this world are just, because for evil and things that do not exist to have erupted on our planet the way they have over the last few thousand years at least, that is ihele. That's not normal. I hope you get what I mean. So what I'm saying is, in most scenarios, someone attempting to change their own name is bad. That's a sign of erratic behavior. Now, because of the naming crisis we have today, there are caveats to that. I think that if someone on our world today has never thought of adding to their name or explored what it means to change their name, I think there's something wrong with them. Why? Because we don't really know what that's about. But because our names are improper, that's really a what I'll call a um, borderline mistake that everyone should make. I hope you know what I mean by that. This is a complicated situation. But look at what Kanye has done. Again, government name is not your name. Let's just deal with Kanye. That's a name he was given as a child. And I want to be honest, based upon the information that has been publicly given about the intent behind the name and the intended meaning, that is a good name, you see. Um, so it doesn't really seem like he needs to change it. But he's tried to shorten it to Ye. And then he's made that his government name. And I've also gone into in the past how it doesn't make sense to change your government name because that's not your name. As in, it's not your saved name. It's not supposed to be one of your innermost names. And my ancestors tell me it's actually supposed to be bootleg. Okay. So, that's not a good sign. And then I want to elevate us a bit. Look at the stature that Kanye has risen to. I mean, this man has literally run for president of the United States. Yes, the system is broken, but if you're able to move within the system at that level, you're a world leader. So for a world leader at that level, and I do want to go here, Kanye's not over the age of 50. He's not past the big one, but he's in his 40s. You see what I'm saying? So, this is not someone who literally came out yesterday. You see what I'm saying? So, for someone like that to spend so much time relatively talking about his name, changing it, and drawing attention to it without actually going into any depth and without, spending more time doing serious things, that's quite frankly, that is a distraction. Okay. That's not good. So let's talk more about his erratic behavior because the title of this live stream is that he has to retreat from public life. You see, when someone is acting erratically at the top, it's hard for those below them to know what to do. It's just hard to know what to do. Um, you see, Kanye often gets criticized for doing things that are unconventional. I'm not that guy. But there's something about the way someone does something. If something is erratic, that doesn't make sense. Why would you run for president in an erratic manner? Then I can't even primarily focus on the fact that you're running. I'm looking at what's going on. That's a distraction. It makes discourse impossible. And it especially is bad because Kanye was already big. That's not a person who, I mean, there's no such thing as you need to run for president, but that's not a person who couldn't already accomplish major goals with his stature, you see. Um, Especially because we have to admit, in society today, we're too obsessed with official positions. The president, even though he has the most stature formally of any person on earth, is not necessarily the most influential individual. And again, the world is collective. Individuals don't change things by themselves. So doing something like that in an erratic manner is not good. You know, Making statements that were either vague or confusing to the public, um, claiming to, be on a quest to save his people while also saying things that went against them, and then doing things that shone a light in a bad way on his personal life, and I'll get to that in a second. I think the worst instance of erratic behavior I saw from Kanye was actually while he was running. And yes, I did end up writing him in as a protest vote because I just want to emphasize Kanye is still not the worst person in the spaces that he inhabits, especially when it comes to electoral politics. I'm just saying this because um, having run for president, you have to put him in that lane. And I don't know if he'll do it again. I heard something about that. But, since he's not the worst person, we can't always act like he's done the worst things possible. But that's part of why he has to retreat from public life because we have bigger fish to fry. He's just a big distraction. But a distraction before it goes away deserves some attention, ironically. So, as I was saying, the biggest instance of erratic behavior I saw from Kanye was when he had a rally he was wearing a vest, a bulletproof vest. He was in some sort of concert venue, and it was like a dark room, which is not usual. And I think as a society, we need to minimize those kind of events. I don't think they're safe in general. There's too much of a culture of that. But he was in this strange location giving a strange rally, and he broke down. Now, I'm not going to speak in depth about what might have been going on with him emotionally. I don't know everything, but he's talked a lot about his private life publicly, which I'll get to, and other people have as well. So we all have some idea of what stress might have been on him, but it's clear he causes a lot of that stress himself. So already he has less leeway to break down in that situation. And then on top of that, a lot of the things he said during the breakdown were inexcusable. Let's make a note. 1717. All right. Check this later. So yeah, that's not good. And we have to deal with the fact that even bad people represent their people. You see what I'm saying? He's talked a lot about race. Um, so obviously, you know, he represents black people in general to an extent, but there's other groups he might represent as well. You might represent the group of people that you were born around, you might represent who you live with, you represent your family, all these things. So because you're a representation of everyone you're connected with to an extent, if you look bad and you look bad for reasons that are objectively bad, that has to be taken into account. Obviously, people can be too superficial. I'm not a proponent of being beholden to people you represent. You're not beholden to people you represent. You can do things they don't like, and you can challenge their perception of what it means to look good. I would say I do that as well. I mean, let me not go into it, but you guys have heard me talk before about how my relatives, and particularly my elders, are obsessed with, white standards of grooming, being hairless, things of that nature. Again, I don't do that. So I think I represent them better than their idea of me represents them. You see what I'm saying? But Kanye is not that guy. So you see that erratic behavior, and then you have to see the second thing I'm talking about, which is his personal life. You see, he's talked about it so much publicly that there's too much for me to get into here because I'm not trying to do a full length live stream on this. That's not the purpose of The Greatest Man Alive. Eventually, I will do a roundup, but I'm not doing that now. And also, a lot of the things he's shown a light on are not appropriate to show a light on. Again, I think there's far too much secrecy in the world today. People call secrecy privacy. If no one knows you exist, that is secrecy. We don't need secrecy. I mean, are aliens invading the planet? Why are you a secret to the world? Let me move. So I'm not Mr. Secrecy, but not everything should be shown publicly. That's the purpose of having a personal life. It's not even practical to do that. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So, given all that, Kanye needs to take a step back from public life because I can't really even blame at least some large amount of people for paying attention to him. Because at some point, we have to admit that as long as a person exists, they're going to attract attention. And if that person has done things in the past that attracted attention in a positive light, because I'm not going to say Kanye has never done anything positive, that's too much. But if someone's done that, because there's a natural desire to see them build from that, some people will look. And then on top of that, words and actions have effects. So if what he's doing publicly affects everyone, both publicly and privately, some people will pay attention. Obviously, more people could ignore it, but, I'm here talking about him. So I think this is primarily on him to take a step back and just do what's necessary to become a proper person. And that's all I'll say. Anyway, I'll talk about this more going forward. I'll be honest, Kanye might really be in the Umar category now of people I don't want to talk about. Um, and I guess people that I haven't been the worst critic possible of before. Because that seems to be the standard in the world today. If you weren't someone's number one critic, um, you were in love with them. Let me walk. Yeah, so Kanye's really in the Umar category. I think my ancestors are speaking to me. Just calling on him again. Ooh. Yeah, I think I need to do a Kanye study. Yeah, anyway, thank you very much. Please patronize my business, and I'll see you guys next time. See you.